Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Boa Athu, the Statspert. You joined me here on the ThePapare Rugby on the Facebook feed, live Q&A featuring straight up rugby. A very, very warm welcome to you wherever you may be, wherever you're joining us from right around the world. Also, a very special shout out to all those mothers. Happy Mother's Day. I know my own mum, she's watching. So, mum, happy Mother's Day. Um, as you all know, today's guest, a living legend in Sri Lankan rugby. He's the former CH, CR, and Andy captain, as well as Sri Lanka captain. And he's joining us from Colombo. Mr. Priyantha Ekanayake, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hi, hi, Boa. Thanks for having me.
Oh, look, it's an absolute pleasure. I've been really waiting for this all week, actually. I've been absolutely flooded with messages from your fans, Candy fans, St. Anthony's fans, former CR fans from your playing days, and also CHNFC, my old club. So how have you been? How is lockdown treating you, Priyantha?
Good. Can't complain. I've been indoors for 51 days. Unlike you guys, you're allowed to go out. We have a curfew here, so we can't leave the premises. So being at home all this time. So hopefully we can start going out from tomorrow onwards. So looking forward to that.
Right, right. So that's something to look forward to as well. So, Priyantha, for especially the younger fans, you want to give everyone a little bit of an introduction about yourself, who and what you are and what you've been. I know I know you don't like to talk much about yourself. You're a very humble man, but just for the benefit of the younger fans, you want to just a short introduction, please.
My name is Priyantha Ekanayake. I studied at St. Anthony's College, Kandy, and I was privileged to spend most of my time in the hostel. That's where I was able to do sports. I did few sports at college. Did reasonably well in basketball and rugby. So even after I left school, I continued those two sports. First basketball, then after that rugby. Then I was in the garment industry for over 25 years, and I had a short stint at Sri Lanka Rugby. Now I'm helping with Sri Lanka Baseball.
Right, I see. So you're a multi-talented sports person, and obviously you pick rugby for the good fortune of Sri Lanka, I suppose.
Yeah, rugby, I know. I mean, initially it was tough. I mean, my only choice was to go and play for Kandy, and my brother was captaining the club anyway. So I went and played for Kandy, and then after a while, then I realized, I can go a bit further. And I was fortunate enough because CHNFC gave me a job and gave me an opportunity to come and play for the club. And that's how I moved. So I played the league season in Kandy, and then came to Colombo and played for CHNFC. Then after that, I switched on to CR, and then the final years I spent at Spinning Candy. Yeah. So I played for three clubs.
That's right. So three clubs, and we've actually got some photos of you from your CHNFC playing days. You were tall and handsome as you still are. For all our fans out there you go. That's Priyantha. Now, all you fans out there, if you want to ask Priyantha a question, all you've got to do is pop your question on the comment box, and it will appear, and you will get an answer from the man himself. So, Priyantha, just to start proceedings off, currently, what are you up to these days? Are you involved in rugby in any form or shape, or?
No, I'm not really. I had a stint with the rugby. I was there for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years. Since then, I've been with baseball. Actually, I've been helping baseball right along. So we have been going reasonably well. So can't grumble. It's tough. I mean, any sport in Sri Lanka is tough to develop because we have so many restrictions and red tapes. So having said that, we have gone a bit further than we thought. Baseball, we are between 7 and 8 in Asia and 36 in the world. out of 121 teams. So we had not done that badly. And then we have about 30 club teams playing baseball in Sri Lanka and about 35 schools actively playing. So we have about 50 schools playing baseball. So that's about it. So we have been focusing on the high performance and the development. And to be honest, I mean, we haven't had that much of publicity. Now we are very strong on the Facebook, Instagram, and all the other social media channels. But I'm sure in years to come, baseball will be one of the top sports in the country, given the fact that it's similar to cricket and fielding, because you need hand-eye coordination. So our guys are really good at
Sure.
it. And this is a sport that we can develop because we can get a lot of help from Japan and the USA. Both countries, it's a number one sport. So which is there are lots of positive in this sport.
That's a really interesting choice of sport for you, a man who's heavily involved in rugby. So we'll come back to the whole baseball gig a little bit later. We've got a few comments. Both of our former teammates, Dimitri Jude Pille is saying hi, and
Hi.
Maufa Usuf, another big fan of the show, he says hi as well. I believe he's a former St. Anthony's boy.
Yeah, very active. St. Antonio.
Yeah, very, very active. So, Priyantha, we've got a question coming from a fan, from Sanjeev Lokube. So what Sanjeev is asking is, hi Priyantha, what happened to your plan to uplift rugby in Sri Lanka, your tenure as president of SLR? If you were, I believe you were president back in, was it 2007?
Yeah, I know. 2003, 4.
Sorry, 2003. I beg your pardon. So his question, what happened to your plan to uplift rugby in SL after your tenure?
He wants to know my tenure as the president or the CEO.
I think as the president.
President, to be honest, when I was appointed to that post, because actually I didn't contest really, because they requested me to come and take over because I had just given up playing and then I just got into administration, so I had very little experience, to be honest. I was probably I don't want to call it the dumbest, but most less knowledgeable president we had at that time. But having said that, I was able to get some good administrators. I think Dilroy Fernando, I must thank him, I must remind Dilroy's name, because he did a lot of work and he was a great administrator. Then we had George Simpkin looking after the technical side. And we had a system in place. I mean, we were getting funding from World Rugby to a certain extent. We had few sponsors. When we took over, we had a huge financial problem. So we managed to overcome all that. And as for rugby, we did fairly well. I mean, thanks to George, who set up a wonderful structure. And so we were going to continue with George. Unfortunately, George had to leave. And then, of course, my tenure finished, and then the whole thing collapsed. So I think we didn't have a long-term plan. If I look back, to be honest, I have been a president, and if I look back, I know most of them will be upset when I say this, but I think we have not. I don't think we have done enough for Sri Lanka rugby. If you look back, we have a history of 100 years. We don't have our own rugby ground. We don't have academy. We don't have let alone anything else. We don't even have our own headquarters. So I think we have all failed. We need to admit that we have all failed as administrators. So that's something that now. Since then, I think it's a bit tough. Now it has become very rigid. I mean, all sports in Sri Lanka are struggling at the moment. So sports ministry need to step up and come up with some kind of a plan.
All right. So with this whole sports administrator situation, do you think it's more cyclic? It's that sort of thing where you start, you do something, and then it stops, and you go back to square one. Is that a pattern? Is that fair to say that would be a pattern we see in Sri Lankan sports?
Yeah, I believe so, because we have no plan. Really, we have no plan. We are shooting in the dark. I mean, starting from the ministry. I mean, I don't want to shoot my So, but if you look at the vision of the sports ministry is to be the best sporting nation in Asia, and that means you're going to compete against countries like Japan, China, Korea. I mean, even if you take the Olympics, and most of them are competing at the top level, and China won probably about 20 medals last time, and we are struggling to send up we are struggling to send sportsmen to the Olympics. So we are in a situation like that. So vision without action is useless. So that's where the problem is. And also now, if you take the sports associations, now they are most of the sports association, the members get selected by voting by the either it's by the clubs or provincial unions, depending on the association. So what happens is now you're being identified as the guy who voted for us or is who is in the other party. So we don't select the right people to the right job. And it's happening, right along from all sports. So given that situation, it's very difficult to develop sports unless the sports ministry comes out and says, okay, this is our plan, this is our vision. Now, one thing I suggested was when you become a president or secretary or whatever the position when you hold in an association, it's important that you come up with a plan, you come up with a blueprint, and give it to the sports ministry. And sports ministry needs to evaluate them on a 6 months basis. If the president is not doing what he has been told or what he has been proposed, then he should go. I mean, so there is no accountability really. So in a situation like that, it's very difficult. I mean, I can't see myself. I mean, we certainly have the talent. I mean, the talent is immense. Even for me, that was one of the challenges when I took over as CEO of rugby union, and same with baseball. The talent is immense. I mean, we can't be world champions, but I'm sure we can, to play to the best of our ability and finish somewhere in the top. And some sports, I'm sure we can get into the Olympics. I believe we have a very good chance.
So, Priyantha, now this whole talk about we have enough talent. I hear this a lot, especially in rugby, especially with sevens, and of course with most of the other sports, athletics. So, given that we have all this talent, so in your view, what can we actually do as far as changes in sports administration, so we can streamline this talent and actually have a decent go at success? What would you do? Any thoughts there?
Okay. If I'm speaking for myself, I mean, no question about us having the talent. It's just that we are not structured properly. I mean, we are not disciplined. We don't have any systems. We don't have processes in place. So I believe the only way forward is now, if you look at the forces, now we had a 33-year-old war, and which is probably the worst thing that happened to this country. But having said that, the good thing that came out of the thing is every major city has Army, Navy, Air Force base. So if we can use those facilities to develop sport, and that will be the ideal situation, and they can manage the grounds. I'll just give you an example. Now, last year, one of the Army personnel did a presentation, and according to them, they spent about 450 million on sports, and I would say about another 200 or 300 million on infrastructure development and all that. So you are looking at like 800, 900 million they spent. And now, if you take the South Asian contingent of 600 players who went for that event, is 485 athletes were from Army, right? So if Army can do all that, and Army can facilitate so many, whereas the sports ministry is spending about 7 to 10 billion a year. So how much of that goes into the players directly? So if we can sign up with the forces, I'm saying initially, until they get the structure, so we can work on that. I mean, it's just, if you look at most of the associations, they don't do anything. They just play the tournament because that's one of the regulations or one of the things that they have to do to be in power. So they just play the tournament for the sake of playing. Now, if you can get Army involved, and then good example is they built a stadium in Kilnochi, right? Opened the stadium for 3 years, no one used it. Then everything, I mean, swimming pool, everything was like, it was all gone. And then they had to redo the whole thing. I think former minister went back on his own and he redid the whole thing. Still, they have not used it. So we don't have a database. boards, forget anything. I mean, everything. We don't have a database. We don't know how many grounds we have. We don't have how many sportsmen we have. All we do need to do is have a sports structure, it's database. Then you have the data, then you can make decisions. I mean, if somebody tells me, like, if I go to the sports minister and tell them I want to develop the game of baseball, and I need funding, all they have to do is look at the database and say, okay, we have so many grounds in, say, Batiklo. You take the game to Batiklo and start developing the game in Batiklo. We will support you because there are players and no players, but more grounds. So likewise, we can make some, intelligent decisions if we have those information. Without any information, we just buy equipment, we just, build grounds. There is no master plan, there is no blueprint, only vision without action. So it's a sad story. So for me, if you ask me a question, way forward is the forces, particularly army.
Yeah, I think, look, Priyantha, I mean, I've been a big advocate of this very same theory. I mean, I've written a number of pieces, and all we can do is put it out there, and you've very elegantly stated step by step. It makes perfect sense. So I and most of the fans, the feedback I get, they agree. Now we're going to take a question. Riaz, another fan of our show, he goes about the club structure and the Super League structure. So this is more to do with rugby. What are your thoughts with current Sri Lanka the club rugby or the dialogue premiership? What are your
I
thoughts on
think,
that?
if I go back my stint as a CEO, I mean, we looked at three areas. One was the high performance when I joined. I think we had a good system in place. Inti Marika was heading the unit, and we had two New Zealanders. We had a very structured plan. As a result, we became under 18 Asian champions, under 21 Asian champions. Our team became runner-up in Asia, in the sevens I'm talking. So we had a good structure. When you have a good structure, you can see the results. And they were doing proper high performance. They were analyzing players. They were doing the whole thing. I mean, the nutrition part, conditioning, all aspects they were addressing. I think Inti was working with the Hurricane team, rugby team in New Zealand. So then we were looking at the development side. So development side was going well because we were getting a lot of funding from World Rugby for development. So we took the game to Jaffna, where we got a lot of help from the forces. So which was good. I mean, we were setting it up, and then our biggest problem was again the club rugby, the competition side. So when we looked at it, I mean, you really don't know the reason. First of all, to do anything, we had to get the crowds back. So we have lost the crowds. I don't know the real reason. Maybe we are very fortunate to play in, fully packed stadiums, but unfortunately, you have only about 100, 200 people watching matches. So we have to get the crowds back. So I don't know the reason is whether it's one horse race or if they start matches at 4 o'clock because it's too hot, and also the entertainment part of it. Now, when you go for a big event, I mean, you've been to many events, whether it's New Zealand Sevens or even New Zealand club game. There's a lot of fun activity, and it's like if you're bored, you watch sport, right? So the entertainment factor we have lost it. So we need to bring that back and make it more entertaining for people to have something after the match. And so we address certain issues. We are thinking, okay, whether we could play under floodlights. So for that SLR, if you didn't have a ground, so we had to use the race course grounds, and that was costing us a huge amount. So it was tough. So I think basically we are lucky actually because the forces, the sports have survived, not just rugby. Most of the sports have survived because of the forces. And otherwise, we have only three clubs. There was a time that we had a club in Navalapitiya, we had ball playing, we had Kurunakala playing. So there were a few teams that came along, but they were unable to sustain because now rugby has become a professional game. So the issue is most of the players are playing for money, and I'm saying that's nothing wrong with that because you can, if it's a professional sport, you have to play for money, but they lose that passion. Now New Zealand, that's where they got it right. They didn't let go the passion. They played that sport. As a result, they got paid. But when you play the sport for money, then you lose that passion part, and then most of the people fall off the rails, and I don't know if they enjoy rugby, the way we played. I mean, during the time we had big socials and we had so many things to look forward to.
Indeed.
And
Big social.
in some cases, it was a social that was more important, you know.
That's
So so we have lost all that. So people are more like, they are just playing for the sake of playing because they're getting paid. So I don't think that enjoyment part, I don't know, somewhere we have lost it. So that is something we need to bring it back.
So, Priyantha, we have a couple of true legends, your compatriots, your peers, Apsi Nagata, all the way from Fiji,
Oh,
Mulawanaka, Mr. Nagata,
hi,
your former
hi,
teammate.
Apsi. Yeah, of course. Playing with Nagata probably, made me, not a star, but made me a better player because people saw me because I was only following Nagata when he made this, first break and gave me the ball. So I was able to play better playing with Nagata for sure.
And also another real star from Candy, former CR and Candy star, Nalaka Virakudi saying, hi, Priyantha.
Yeah, hi, Nalaka.
Now, Priyantha, I'm going to come back to you had a stint in New Zealand. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'm going to take a question again from Sanjeev. He asks, what is your view in fielding overseas players?
I beg your pardon? I didn't hear.
So what Sanjeev asks is, what is your view about fielding overseas players in the 15-side? Yeah, no, what he's saying is, I guess in the for Sri Lanka, naturalized overseas players representing.
100% agree. I'm saying we have to.
Any particular reason? Do you? Yeah, I can hear you. Please.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, during the time we played, we became better players because we played with foreign players and we had quality players at that time. So I think SLR also lost a trick in the Sri Lanka rugby. Should have now they tried it, but it didn't work. But they have to come and play here. I mean, it's sad that you can't play for a club team in Sri Lanka. But when we are to get spectators, that's the only way we can do it. And also, in New Zealand, you understand that so many Polynesians play for New Zealand. Of course, they come and live there and they qualify to play for the country. And we can do that because initially, for us to get to a stage, because now we are what tier 5 nation. If you want to get to tier 4, you get more funding, more tours, more support in form of coaching, form of development, everything. So if you can get a few foreign players, I believe that if they can allow at least under 23 foreign players to come and play for Sri Lanka, 3 or 4, then you can also ask the clubs that if they play for the club for 3 years and if they can keep them here, they will be eligible to play for the club as a local player if they're allowing 3 players. So then that player qualifies to play for Sri Lanka. So if you can get a few players, foreign players to play for us, and then I'm sure our standard of rugby is going to improve. As a result, we'll get more tours, then there will be more opportunities for other players as well. There will be B teams, C teams, whatever you call it. But what we are looking at is, we are saying Sri Lankan players are being deprived of playing because of the foreigners, and you're losing, losing the big picture. I believe that foreign players is a must. That's the only way to take the game forward. Probably bring back the crowds.
Look, I couldn't agree with you because you played with some real quality foreigners, especially at KNPST, and massive crowds, massive. It didn't matter where the game was played. It was a sellout, a standing room only, and as you rightly said, unfortunately now it's only the players' family, friends. It's like a rent-a-crowd. So something needs to happen, and I think you're really on to the obvious winner. I'm going to take another question, Priyantha. Riyad Rifa, he asks, the quality of school rugby is pretty decent, but it takes a dip at club and international level. Why?
That's because, the schools are spending a lot of money. There's a lot of emphasis on schools rugby. You look at some of the budgets are over 25 million rupees, right? And so anyway, if you look at it, like even baseball, for that matter, our school level is at a very high standard. because our kids are talented, right? So we have to ensure that we bring them through the system. Now, when in New Zealand and other countries, the countries who are doing well, what they do is they pick the good players and they get them through the academies, and then they make them professionals. They give them knowledge, they give them whatever the skills they need, and then they give them all the tools to become a good player. And so they own the players. So this is something we suggested actually we discussed at the rugby union, where we contract school players and then form an academy, and then give these guys kind of education, or it's like a more like a uh, more like a proper academy, where there is not just sports, but we give them values, we teach them etiquette, we give them some kind of a knowledge, so that we own the players, and then we can sell them, or union can sell them to the clubs. So whereas the union has a control over the players, that way you can ensure that the talent is evenly distributed. Not like what is happening now, because for some clubs it's impossible, because if you don't have money, then you can't field a team, simple as that. So you get all the C grade players and you try to win a tournament with them, and then at the same time then you lose the crowds, then as a result then you don't have sponsors. So it's a difficult situation. So you need to, I totally agree, because that's why I said under 18 level we became champions, under 20 we became champions. Of course, having said that, it's a big jump from schools to clubs. So we don't have anything in between. There was a time we were trying to introduce under 23, but now it's with the finances, it's going to be virtually impossible. But if we can get help, if if we go with a proper plan, and if we go to the ministry, or go to the sponsors, I'm sure there will be people who will come forward and help us. uh, for sure, 100% agree that our talent at the school level is immense.
Yeah, I think under 23 might actually draw a better crowd than the clubs itself, because the school players will transition and the school crowds will follow these teams. Now, speaking of clubs, Priyantha, we had a lot of questions and comments from Candy supporters. So we're gonna have a look at a quick photo of yours, team photo. There you go. I believe you're at the back there, the handsome, tall gentleman. Which year was this, Priyantha?
This must have been 97, am I right? Yeah, 95 or 97. I think it's 97.
Some real
Like,
stars there. Priyantha, now you started off at my old club, CHNFC, and then you
started at Candy actually, then came to CH. Yeah.
Right, and then from there you went over to CR.
CR.
Do you wanna give the fans a little bit of a brief rundown on that with your club stints?
I mean, I, to be honest, I mean, set a very low target. I mean, I all I wanted to play for Candy. I mean, when I left school, and if when you look back, it's a very low target, considering where I am now. But Candy was getting beaten by 50, 60 points by every club. So as I said, I mean, when I was playing, I mean, I didn't have a job in Candy. So CHNFC offered me a job, and CH had the two best second rows in Sri Lanka. I was very fortunate. You had Sridharan and Junaideen at that time, and both of them retired. So I was very lucky. They didn't have a line-out jumper, so they brought me in for the knockouts, and they gave me a job. And I played the next year as well. So we won the knockout. We won the Premadasa Trophy in '85 and '86. Then again, I lost the job. The company closed down, so they just kept me, moving from one job to another. So I had no choice. So I had CR offered me a job, and I was very grateful to them. And then I went to CR and played for CRNFC. Then, of course, we, for reasons known to all of you, then we decided to come to Candy. I mean, at that time, that decision didn't look very good, but when you look back, it has done a world of good for Candy Rugby. I mean, Candy has the best spectators. I mean, there's no question about it. Candy people are so passionate. Yeah, that's where the important is. They feel for the city. That's what something that I think I think England cricket. That's what they did with England cricket. The counties, they made them like the county loyalty. They created that county loyalty. So I think if we had pursued with God, we would have got to some stage. I mean, God doesn't have rugby playing schools like in Kandy. But having said that, most of the Kandy players are from Colombo schools now. Some of them come to Colombo and play and then go back. So Gaul, you would have done that with Gaul and then probably other provinces. So you need to create this, I think, the provincial structure. Unfortunately, the cricket is also struggling because they have all these tournaments, but it's nothing like the clubs, because CS, or most of the top players are playing for the main clubs in Sri Lanka. So same with rugby. So that's the issue. I think.
Yeah, I think speaking of Candy, you're right. Most passionate fans, Mittal, the fortress. It's packed. I mean, I've played a few games at Mittal. I tell you what, it's very hostile. But you can't find a better place for a atmosphere, the environment. The fans are like at your eye level, and you feel like you're alive. And
Yeah, sure.
I think from a player's point of view, I think Candy provides the most opportunities. Would that be a fair statement to say in the current context?
Yeah, so you have no choice. I mean, people. So if they are playing because they need a better livelihood, I mean, then Kandy is the place because. But unfortunately, that's not good for Sri Lanka rugby. That's not the right thing for Sri Lanka rugby. So you have to have because that's one reason we are losing out on sponsors and also. But having said that, that's no fault of Kandy. But then the other clubs should need to step up, or the rugby union needs to have a discussion with these clubs and see
Very
how
valid
we
point.
can all these clubs and
So,
or have a grading system for national players, and you can say X number of national players can play for a club or whatever. Then it's free for all, no? I mean, now it's very difficult, yeah. So because the
it,
best Henry has the most of the talent, and not just the talent, they have a better system there as well. So they got the structure right, they got all the systems right. So for some reason, so no one has addressed those issues.
yeah, because under the current system, Candy, I can't see their domination. Speaking of domination, there's a photo of you, a couple of key overseas players there. Was that the
Yeah,
sevens or was that the
this is
different
15s,
club?
I think. I think 15s, yeah. This the New Zealander, two Fijians, yeah. Betty and Kitty, I think those are
Oh,
the first guys who came and played rugby in Sri Lanka after Nagata, of course. So, yeah, I mean, they were
Kitione
household
and
names.
Nikki.
People still talk about them.
I in fact, all-time best overseas 15, and I actually left out Kitty. No, actually, I left out Betty, and my word, I took a lot of that. Instead, I put CR's Paul Bennett. It was a real toss-off. But anyway, now speaking of overseas, um, you you had a stint in New Zealand with the was it Ravenscourt, now known as the Harbour Hawks, Jeff Wilson's force.
Yeah,
You want to tell the fans a little bit about your experience in New Zealand? Those top
uh,
Premier grade senior ones, wasn't it?
I was very fortunate to be honest because I captained in 1990. I captained the Asian tournament in that was in Asia, Sri Lanka. Then what happened was we had a New Zealand coach called Jeff Matheson, who was the former All Black. Uh, and so after, actually, we had a very successful 1990 Asian. So after that, he wanted me to come and play for his club. So they signed me on, and then I went there. Usually, what happens is once you've been given a contract, they give you at least 3-4 matches before they test you out. Uh, I can remember, just to tell you a bit about what really happened. I landed there and we watched a match. The two clubs were playing a friendly game and they went at each other. I was seated next to Jeff and I said, I don't think, Jeff, I can survive A-Division rugby. He just punched me on my face and he went to the club and told everyone that we have got the best line out jump in Asia and all kinds of things. And I was feeling really embarrassed. But that evening we did they did 50 sets of scrums and I did 5 and I started vomiting and I had to come out. And I was thinking, oh, what can I do? But having said that, I had a window of 3 weeks before the first game. So we had a someone national number 8 at that time playing for the club. And then we had the captain from Cook Calendars. We had a couple of Otago players to be, yeah, Otago players. And then so I went and started training in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. So we did 3 sessions, we did weights, all kinds of things. And so when we played the first match, we played against a side called Varsity. And like I said, you're being given at least 3 games before make a decision on you. So I played as a second row, and I think I didn't know much about the match. I was just getting to know the teammates, and we lost to them 17-3, I believe. And I didn't play very well or very badly to be dropped. I did one or two lineouts, one or two kickoffs. So I did reason. I did enough to secure my place. But when I came off the field, I realized they had out of the team, 13 of their players were Otago players, and 4 of them were All Blacks. And we had Zinzan Group, Paul Henderson, then Mike Brewer was there. Then there are other guys who played around Pene and Jamie Joseph. All those guys, they became All Blacks eventually. So for me, I mean, yeah, current Japan coach. So all of them are there in the team. So for me, coming out of that team and suddenly it was like a shock to me. So I think that's where I started believing that we can compete at that level. And to be honest, very next game I won the Player of the Day. I jumped against the maybe All Black guy who had played for the went on the South African tour before. So it was good. I mean, from there onwards, you after you play 5 matches, then you get a sweater, then you win the tie, you win the jacket, so all kinds of things. So I was fortunate enough to get a call for Otago B, but Otago A B in the British lands that year. So it was very difficult. I mean, that time rugby was really tough. I was very lucky because there was no lifting. I was a national basketball player, so that's the only thing that kept me going. I think when they got me in, I was just lanky guy. I probably would have been about 105 kilos compared to most second rows. I was not big enough. But when we did the line out practices, we were supposed to touch the post, so I managed to jump over and flap. So that's the only time they looked at me and said, "Wow, this guy can jump." So that's the only good thing for me. But later on, I managed to blend with the team, learn a lot from the team. First day, you sit around the table, and before the match, we have 2 hours before the match, we meet and we discuss about the match, and everyone is supposed to say something, and you might say something really stupid. But when you listen to all these Otago players and coaches and trainers, all that, then you learn so much. I mean, I can't tell you how much that experience helped. I think that's probably changed my life as well.
Absolutely. So, Priyantha, now, if I'm not mistaken, you played in 1991 for
Yeah.
Reynoldsbourne, known as the Harbour Hawks, the famous All Black Jeff Wilson's old club. I think you
Yeah,
played
yeah.
an entire season for the Premier
I
Grade.
did the entire season of '91. Then I came back because we had the national team and the national practice, so I was captaining at that time. So the following year they wanted me to come, but 1992, it was unfortunate I missed out playing with Jeff Wilson because
Right, wow.
1992 was the Asian year. So I was the captain and then couldn't go because we had to train the whole year. So I missed out. That was very unfortunate. But yeah, so in many ways that was unfortunate. But I will always treasure what I learned, not just as a rugby player, but as a person, as a human being. Their culture is so different. It's all about higher you go, humble you get. I mean, during the time the manager of the team was like the richest guy in the club. He comes and sweeps the floor. He collects the jerseys. He takes it home, washes the jerseys. He brings it next day, and that kind of a culture where the captain will stay back and clean the dressing rooms. So it's a different culture altogether. I mean, you live there. I don't have to tell you all about it, but for the benefit of the fans, so we need to create a culture like that if you want to, be passionate about things. That's where New Zealand is far better than any other team in the world and most successful sporting team in the world.
So, fans, for your information, Priyantha had 18 appearances. Out of those 18 appearances for the Harbour Hawks, he won 3 man of the match appearances. And let me tell you, at that level, because club Premier Grade in New Zealand is the way to playing provincial rugby. And from provincial rugby, you go on to Super Rugby. So there is no easy feat, especially playing down in Otago. It would have been cold and miserable, with all that mud and winter and wind howling behind you. And when it gets when the rain starts, it's about what -1 sometimes on the best days.
Yeah,
It's a shocking place
sure.
to play rugby. Now, Priyantha, I'm going to take another question from our friend Maufa. He says, "Hi, Priyantha. I have to
Fine, I know.
correct you. You did play cricket for college first 11. My question to you, having been at major cup winning sides like CR, CH, and Candy, what would you say is the most noticeable difference between these clubs, if any, such as teamwork, engagements, and with supporters? So, what are the key differences you see between CR, CH, and Candy?"
I think both clubs had loyal supporters during that time because I was very fortunate. I would say I played in a non-professional era. I mean, CH they didn't have that many supporters, but those guys were really passionate. I must say, I mean, I really enjoyed playing rugby at CH. That was my first year, and playing with these guys, and we had great nights, and the parties are wonderful. I mean, I have so many good memories. I mean, some of those guys whom I played with. I mean, I remember like Rohan, Abhikon, Ranjan, Kanak, Sabe, Ravi Vijayanath, and all those guys. I mean, Roshan, Ferra, all those guys were so nice to me. I mean, like some of the top guys we had, like we had Simon Hunter, our Chandrisha and Ferra. So it was a great privilege for me to play for CH. So CH had a good support. I mean, set of loyal supporters. Same with CRFC. I mean, CR also had, but Candy was completely different. I mean, you had people ranging from every life of every stage. I mean, you had the street vendors, the bankers, you have the rich, poor, everybody supporting Candy. Uh, I can remember, just to let you know, in the 1991, when police played Candy in Colombo, apparently the gate has been uh, 3,500 or something like that. And the following year, when Candy played police in Colombo, the gate was 333,000 rupees. So that's that's the difference. So I think if I look back, I think it's Candy people are very passionate, and I think they're still very loyal to the club. I think unfortunately Sia and CH have lost that. I don't think they have the same support. I mean, Candy also they don't have the same support, but still it's fairly big. They have a big crowd supporting their team. Like I said earlier, they feel that they are part of the city.
Yeah, I think I have to certainly back you up on one thing you said. My old club, CH, they had the best socials. Once upon a time, they had the best socials. No question about it.
Not
And one of
social,
your
like we after practices also. We have had good parties after practices also.
absolute, it's part and parcel of the culture. And a couple of people you named, your former teammates, namely Chandrishan Pereira. Shan, I hope you're watching this. Shan was my mentor when it came to off the field matters. And I tell you what, very successful, extremely successful, tried and tested. And we had some great times. And Priyantha, Mr. Tony Amit and your former teammate Duvinder De Silva, they're watching. So big shout out to both of you. Right, we're going to take another question from Kevin Ruskino. Kevin's question: as captain of Sri Lanka and playing club rugby, have you ever been red carded? For whatever reason?
Yeah, thanks to him.
I knew that was a loaded question. Can you give us a little bit of a insight into this?
He was the only reason. He was the only reason I was recorded. I think we went at each other for some reason. Yeah, it was in good faith. I mean, that's a game because during our time, rocking was allowed, right? You step on people, you rock them, and it was a very rough game. Now you have the touch judges, you have the referee to safeguard you. Those days they used to punch you, and like you said, New Zealand, it was so difficult. I mean, if somebody hits you, if you don't hit back, they don't even respect you. So you're caught between, girl and the good. So it's a
Yeah, look,
it's
with
it's so
Priyantha,
funny.
with rucking, I mean, my, I personally believe that one of the biggest misses in the game in the current context is rucking because if rucking was allowed, I mean, my belief is if you're on the wrong side of the ruck, you deserve to be rucked on. It's that simple. And most of these problems at the breakdown will get sorted out. It's that simple. But unfortunately, we live in a very politically correct society. Rugby has kind of trended with the PC brigade and player safety and all the rest of it. Uh, so no more fucking. Now,
No,
Luminder's
I
sent another.
Bo, I think what I want to answer that the reason
Yep.
for that is the professionalism. Because now what happens is the clubs pay the players, and they play it as earlier they had a job, and then they played as a part-time sport. Now you're a professional, so they need to keep the players healthy, and they can't let them get injured because most of them are insured for big amounts, and so they cannot afford to lose a player. So that's one of the reasons they had to change the laws. I think during the time that I played, I think the maximum they were allowed before it became semi-professional. I think £1 a day or something like that. Now the players get paid like up to $1 million a year. Some of the top players, so completely different game now.
Yeah, once upon a time it was beer money and it was social money, and the club members. I mean, you played here in New Zealand. They would look after your rent, your groceries, transport back and forth to training and on match day, and you get looked after very well, fed, clothed. Dominda De Silva asks a question. Please ask him about the fun he had with rugby. It's a very open-ended question from Dominda. And of course, Jude Miller says, we had the best socials. Yep, Jude, no question. I can relate to that because Jude, much like Mr. Tamashan Pereira, was a great off-the-field mentor. And he had all the connections in town. Wherever we went, we didn't have to stand in queues. We just went through the front door.
I mean, if you talk about Jude, I must tell you a story about Jude. Well, I must tell you a story about Jude.
Please go ahead.
I mean, before Jude started playing for Sri Lanka in the sevens, I mean, we used to go for the Hong Kong sevens, and Hong Kong sevens was, how it is, right? After the tournament, it's just a party night, and most of us used to go and sing Surangani. And luckily, Jude came along and he started singing all these, wonderful songs. He's a great singer, and even the All Blacks used to stand up and clap. And so Sri Lanka became so popular thanks to Jude. I mean, they even during the field we talk about the social more than our performance. So it was good. And Duminda, I mean, what can I say about Duminda? He's still enjoying his life. I mean, from the day I have met him, I haven't seen him, not enjoying a day. He's full of fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. Two great characters off the field, and you're very very accurate about Jude's singing. It's just incredible. He should be on there's a version of America's Got Talent in Sri Lanka. Jude, I know you're watching. You should be on it. Now, Priyantha, I'm gonna go back to a photo we showed. Was the 1990 Asia, which was held in Colombo. You were the captain of the Sri Lanka side. That was a star-studded side, and incredible. Do you want to give the fans a rundown? Because I had a number of messages, a lot of fans that sent me about this Asia. I think it was Japan and Korea made it to the final. There you go. There's the photo. Handsome, tall young man in the middle there, Mr. Priyantha Ekanayake. So, Priyantha, you want to tell the fans a bit about how this tournament went and what this tournament was like from Sri Lanka's perspective?
Yeah, I think I think this is one tournament we really prepared. I must thank the administrators at that time, YC Chang and Malik Samarikrama, because it was a difficult time for everybody, and then they raised the funds for us to tour. I think we went to Wales and we played against some of their clubs. I mean, it was the toughest tour probably I mean, during that era, it was cold, wet, and we were stamped, and we got hammered by some of the Division Three clubs. But that was the, I think, starting point for Sri Lanka rugby, and then we had good technical people, Ajit Aberatna, then Anton Benedict. So after that there was Anna Sarnapala. So I mean, during that era, we had Ajit and Anton. I mean, sirs, then you had Malik and YC who supported us. So for '83, we went to Wales. We came back. Then we went on an under 24 tour. I think we had about 5-6 tours a year those days, including the sevens. So then we played against lots of top sides like Warringah, and we were really prepared for that tournament. Then, of course, then we got down one of the New Zealand coaches. That's again Jeff Matheson, whom I mentioned earlier. Players. He's the one who I think probably made us believe that we can do it. He didn't do much. I mean, we were very fit by the time he got here. So he just changed the mindset. He got us to socialize. He had coach sessions. We had fun. We gelled together as a team. And so I think, I mean, the performance might not show, but I believe that is the best Asian performance we ever had, because we beat Taiwan for the very first time. And we had not beaten. Taiwan was a very good side at that time. Then we lost to Hong Kong because of the disallowed try. And then we lost to eventual champions Korea 25-15. I think our fullback slipped and fell, and that's one of the reasons they scored a try. So we really competed, and I mean that is due to the fact that we were prepared. And then we had a 90-91. We carried the form, and we played against Lautoka. We played against some of the top sides, and we competed. I think the decline started after 1992, really. So I think 90 and 91 were our best years.
Excellent insights, and I recall that tournament because as a young child, I went to see pretty much every game, and especially that game against Hong Kong. I thought Sri Lanka was very, very unlucky to miss out, but it is. Now, Priyantha, we've got another question from one of your former teammates, Roger Rodrigo. Roger asks,
Hi, Roger.
Priyantha, do you remember the pass that I gave you to score in the bowl final at the Hong Kong Sevens back in 1987?
Sure, I can remember. Yeah, how funny is, I mean, I got that video a couple of months ago. I had completely forgotten about it. I mean, Roger played very well. Actually, Roger scored a try off a scrum, and that is where we believe that we have a chance. I mean, we got to the finals. We were playing Hong Kong. Hong Kong was so good. I mean, on paper, they were a million times better than us. I would say in our hearts, I don't think many of us believe that we have a chance to win, but we thought we'll go and have a go, and we just had a good time. I mean, we had some of the good players. I mean, Tishama being probably the best forward. I mean, Sri Lanka has produced, and then we had Roger, who was very good. Then Asanga, at that time, Asanga was a very good flyer. And so we had Saman Kotalawala, who was another good player. I think one of the best centers Sri Lanka has produced. So we were very unfortunate. I mean, we scored at the last minute, and had we converted the try, we would have won the trophy, and that would have been the biggest shock ever. Because Hong Kong side was really, really good. And I think Roger is the one who made us believe that we have a chance. He scored one of the best tries of the tournament, really.
Indeed. I think we've got a photo of that very team you were talking about, which Roger. There you go. All handsome young men. Priyantha, that's you in the background there.
Yeah, I had more hair than flesh.
I think that's great. Ajit Aberatna. And is that IC at the front?
Yeah. I think YC was a real, he was one of the best presidents we had.
Sure. Now, Priyantha, I'm going to ask you about your old school, St. Anthony's College. This week, I've been absolutely flooded with questions about St. Anthony's. And obviously, you've got a big following, and this particular show of mine has a big following with St. Anthony's. So the question I have is, are you currently involved with your school's rugby and
Uh,
administration?
I,
And
I am.
what's the
I
plan?
mean, not very. I mean, not. I wouldn't say 100% active, but I was a very active member. 25. I mean, I lived in Kandy for 25 years. Then I was in and out of school, and I did a lot for the school at that time. Now, I mean, I have hardly any time to go, but I'm in the administration setup. We do a lot of things, and try to support the school whenever it's possible. I mean, we have a lot of passionate old boys. I mean, you understand. There's one in New Zealand, whom you know, and then you have
Of
all the
course.
other guys, living the world. They are glued to it. I mean, old boys are really, really good. I mean, we have a good set of old boys, and because I think because of the hostel culture. I mean, during the time we were in school, we had a hostel. We had about 600 people, so people had to depend on each other for yeah, to live. I mean, basically, I mean, we lived through a socialist government, so there was hardly any food to eat. So the friendship that we built during that time is very strong, and I think now today, I mean, that's why people, I mean, during our era, still gets involved more than the younger generation and support the school. If you look at St. Anthony's, I mean, to be honest, we have not done very well. We have just managed to stay in the A division, but there are lots of reasons for that. One thing is like you're competing now. Those days we competed at the time that we played. We competed against talent versus talent, right? Now it's different. Now you have everything. You have the high performance. You have nutrition. You have rehabilitation. You have specialized coaches. You have everything. I mean, all those videos and everything. You can watch everything. So it's a so the whole thing. So you are not just competing talent wise, talent against talent. So you have Royal, like we have 8,000 students. They have a ground. They have all these facilities. Then you have the uh, rugby schools such as Trinity. Then you have Zipatana. Then you have Kingswood. You have Science. Then you have St. Joseph's and St. Peter's, who are also doing very well. So it's again Wesley, very passionate school. So it's a big challenge for us. So we have to change the way we do things. We need to change the culture, because if you don't have the money, then you need to create a culture like what Science have done. Unfortunately, they keep losing their players to other schools, but I think Science would have been one of the top schools, if not. So we lost out on the hostel, so that is a big setback. And also, since we are a government school, we are allowed to take people from a 2 mile radius. So that's one of the reasons that the biggest challenge that we have is that. And the other problem, of course, with rugby, since you have asked me the school question, is the players are being like most of the schools are just having players to play rugby. I think that's where we have gone wrong. I think the New Zealand rugby got it right because they believe that you need to have uh, and better people make better players. So I think education part is very very important for players, because otherwise the coaches are one thing. I don't know how the coaches will take this. I think we are overpaid, and because of that, they are under pressure to perform. So they
Sure.
they don't run the procedures. They play the players even if they're injured. So they don't care. They get them to come for practices morning, afternoon, and evening. So those are things that needs to stop. So then that will give us a properly a level playing field, and then we can compete.
Well, Priyantha, we've got some really interesting questions coming up. Um, Akil Masoon, he asks, whenever we research about Sri Lanka rugby, your name comes up. Who is the most annoying teammate during your national playing days?
Annoying teammate.
Yes.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, Akil asks, during your playing days, who was your most annoying teammate?
Uh,
Or
they have.
when you had to go on, when you had to share a room with someone, but roommates, who was the most annoying player?
Uh, there are very few of them. I wouldn't want to mention names, but you probably know.
All right, that's a very diplomatic answer. All right, Jude. Well, he's full of questions today. Usually a very quiet guy, but he's asking a lot of questions. So his question goes like this: Please ask about the fun Roger. I would suppose it's Roger Rodrigo, and you had since Roger's wife is watching, and he's trying to get Roger in a bit of trouble.
I couldn't hear the question. Sorry. Bo, I couldn't hear the question.
Yeah, the question Jude asks is, please ask you about the fun you had with Roger, since his wife is also watching this program.
Roger was a really fun guy. I don't have to tell you about Roger. Uh, we had some good fun. We had players like Roger, Graham Rooks. I mean, they were really good. They kept the team together. I mean, even when we went to Dubai Sevens, Roger was there. I mean, Roger supported a lot of guys, and Roger took some of the guys to Dubai and gave them employment. He's done a lot. I mean, he's not just a rugby, player. He's been a nice person as well. We have had great fun. We have had yeah, great times. Yeah.
Now, Priyantha, you said baseball. You were involved in it. Now there's a tournament. I think was it the Southeast Asian tournament which you organized?
No, we had the West Asia tournament. It's so funny because when I got into baseball, I mean, when they invited me, I also didn't know much about baseball. I knew that we were playing baseball in Sri Lanka, but only later on when I researched, I realized, what they have been doing. I think the committee, in fairness to them, they have done a great job with the limited resources. They have had support from Japan. So last year we hosted the first international tournament in Sri Lanka, West Asia tournament, and we won it. And Pakistan is number 23 in the world. We are number 37 in the world, but we beat them in the finals. That was a great match, and from there onwards, I think our rankings have got better and better. We were selected to play in the Asian Games. Then we played in the Asian tournament, and we had a couple of wins there also. So it has been really good. I mean, as far as we are concerned, so our development has really worked. So we took the game to Jaffna. So now 8 schools are playing in Jaffna. We have a full-time coach there. We're very lucky with JICA has gave us 3 coaches, but unfortunately, due to certain incidents, they had to go back. They'll be back here again end of this year. So on the development front, there is a lot happening. So our plan is to take the sport to all provinces and also possibly all districts. And we have a simple plan. What we do is we go and we introduce the sport to about 25 schools. We get them and we have fun games. We get about 500 children. We have games and we get them interested in the sport. We give them a brief idea of the sport. Then what we do is we select 5 players from that particular educational zone. We believe that if you go to an educational zone, it's a small area, so they can play among each other without having to travel far, and they can use one ground also. So because of that, so that model has worked. So what we do is then we select 5 schools and we tell them to give people from their school, at least 5 people, maybe coaches, maybe officials, maybe old boys, old girls, sports officers, and we train them, and then we give them the equipment, and then we tell them to start playing. And then 3 months later, we go and do a bit of an advanced program. Then again, in 3 months, we go there and then we organize a tournament among those 5 schools. And then you have to find a way to sustain the tournament. And I think that's one way of doing things because we can get support from the army, and the army and the forces have really helped us. To be honest, without forces, we won't have this sport in this country. And so, I mean, we have done a tremendous job so far. I mean, the officials are really die-hard. I mean, we have President Fazil Hussain, and then there are guys called, like the die-hard supporters, uh, Manoj and Rajita, and I can name a lot of people. Sukil, there is a guy in Japan who helps us. So it has been really good. I mean, the equipment are very expensive. If you take a bat, it's about 45,000 rupees. Then the glove is about another 40,000. So we have managed to get all these equipment free of charge. So that's one of the good things.
So this sounds like a very simple and effective plan, Priyantha. Maybe all the other sports bodies watching, maybe this is your blueprint to go forward.
but it's difficult. It's difficult to sustain, yeah, unless the sports ministry intervene and they set up a structure where we can continue with these things. Because, like I said, you don't need that kind of funding. Now we have about 7 to 10 billion budget in the sports ministry. How much? Not, I don't believe that even 10% of that goes directly into the sportsman. So we need to identify where it's needed and spend the money, intelligently.
Certainly intelligent thoughts. Now, Priyantha, I'm going to take a question from another fan, Naushad. He's been asking a few questions. He's talking about a game, I think, back in 1991. And the question is, you, of course, made me to become a hardcore Candy fan. As you said, I couldn't even see Candy Police 91 season, that was the Colombo game, properly because it was overcrowded. I guess one of your New Zealand friends also played that match. I guess he's talking about that game, Candy versus Police back in 1991. Do you want to give us a few thoughts if you can recall that game? Naushad is
To be
talking about.
honest, to be honest, I think I can faintly remember the match. I think I have lost. I mean, between 92 and 96, I can't remember most of the matches that I played. I don't know, for some reason it has gone off my memory. But 91, I think I can vaguely remember that I probably think we lost that match, so I can't remember. But it was a real experience for us to come to Colombo and play, And Candy fans used to give the Colombo teams a hard time when they come to Candy, and we were the recipient of all those hard times they got in Candy. So the spectators made sure that not only the spectators, even the players were really harassed, and so after the matches, most of the time we had to run to our dressing rooms. I can remember many times running off the field from police grounds, particularly, and a couple of times on CI and CH. So, I mean, when you look back, it was all fun, and it was good for the game. I mean, if people are so passionate, that means the spectators are really keen on the game. So, to be honest, the 91 game I can't recall, but I know that there was a very big crowd for that match. I think if memory serves me right, Bonnie Graney from New Zealand played with Kiki and Betty.
Right, I think that's what Naushad is talking about. Yeah, I agree. This whole crowd, it's almost like tribal warfare whenever, Candy down to Colombo and vice versa. There's a little bit of an edge, and it adds a bit of spice to the whole encounter. So I don't necessarily see there's a bad thing either.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Priyantha, one of your baseball fans is asking a question. Akib Aslam. His question is, what are some of the future plans for baseball? And Akib, thank you very much for coming on this forum and asking a baseball-related question. So there you go, Priyantha. Baseball fans.
I think we have done a lot of work, and now this year in the calendar we have under 12 tournaments, under 14, under 16, under 18, under 20, and under 21 also. If we are trying whether we can have those tournaments, and then also national team, we were offered a couple of coaches, one from Japan and one from Korea. So we have to make a decision how we are going to get them. But the good thing for baseball is we have our dedicated ground at Diagama. Actually, the Japanese government donated 21 million at that time, and then some of the, I think, as I said, there was another Sri Lanka living in Japan. He also raised a lot of money, and then I think we raised 30 million and built a ground. So that ground is really good. That's international standard ground. That's the only international baseball ground in West Asia. So that's one thing, one area working. And then at school level, they are very active. And, Royal, some of the top schools play. Anand and Nalanda, DS, and then a lot of schools in the South, Richmond, Mahinda. There are about 8 schools playing there. So we have organized tournaments and we have done development projects. I mean, just to give you a brief update about the development, I think in month of January alone, we had a tournament, All Island tournament in golf, and then we introduced the sport to 9 schools in Gaul, and then we had the first baseball tournament in Kandy in January. Then we had a um, baseball tournament in Matale, and then we went to Lakkala and introduced the sport to 9 schools. We gave them equipment, and then we stationed a coach in Jaffna. So, month of January itself, we have done a lot of work, and then we played a club tournament as well.
Oh, sounds like you've done more work with the sport of baseball in 1 month than most sports have done probably in years. So well done to you and congratulations. And
I think, Bo, I need to add thing. I mean, one thing I learned from baseball is you don't need money to develop the sport. I mean, I think we think we need money. I think these are saying that I single is all Nanna to innonna කියලා, because just because of your poor, you don't have to wait without waiting. There are a lot of things that you can do. I mean, organizations in those provinces doesn't cost much, because the schools itself raise money, and then we have to just put everything together and to have a master plan. We have a master plan. We are also working with some other countries, China, Korea, and Japan, whether we can offer our grounds for them to build a stadium, so that because the 4 months of the year, because of winter, they don't play baseball. So if that works, they can come and use the grounds for 4 months, and we can probably have an agreement for 20 years or something, and then we can use the grounds for balance 8 months, and we can have our academy there. So if we can do that, then I think we can go far in the sport.
yeah, you could probably host a tournament during the winter months for these baseball mad countries.
Yeah, for sure.
Make use of it and try and generate some TV revenue, and probably split the TV revenue and utilize that to develop the game. Because the way things are going post COVID, I mean, look at what we're doing. We are 2 time zones apart. We have viewers from right around the world listening in, asking all these wonderful, quirky questions. So, guys, this is the future. And I think if any sporting aficionados or authorities out there are watching this, something you can learn, make use of this platform. You don't necessarily have to have a live crowd now to make money in sport. Develop the sport. I think Priyantha has just given you some absolute gold. And if I was a sports administrator, I would just go cut, paste, so copy word for word, and just go and do it, and then watch the magic happen. There you go. Okay, I've got another question here, Priyantha, from Subodha Vijay Surya. With your immense knowledge and commitment to sport, you should be made a national list MP and given a sport ministerial post for our country to achieve the vision of the ministry that Priyantha spoke of. So what do you reckon, Priyantha? You got now you have to pick a party, wouldn't you, if you have to do this? Pick a color, or would you stand as the independent?
I think no, I don't believe he's a friend of mine, but to suggest something like that. But having said that, but it's difficult when you don't have the systems in place. I mean, we need to put the system in place, and then of course a lot of people will say we don't have the people, but people we can train. If we don't have the processes, good people will not come and serve. But first of all, we need to have a database, right? So if you have a database, I mean, a lot of things will fall in place. Now, if you look at whether it's coaching or talent scouting, all that. Like, for me, I played the game long ago, and I'm still little involved with the sport. If you take rugby, but I don't have the knowledge to select. The selection is a different process, and the same with talent scouting. I mean, that is a different process. So there are lots of things now, refereeing or anything. Those are all specialized jobs. And what happened in Sri Lanka is you just appoint selectors because they have played the sport. And for me, I mean, one thing, more I get exposed, more I realize I don't know anything. So that's the thing. Like, we need to, if you can put a structure in place, I mean, then you can bring in the people. Then it's just a matter of running the processes. It's not about the money. I think, I think, and also making the administrators accountable. I think they should be given a responsibility, or they should come up with a plan and say, "This is what I'm going to do." The president, secretary, or whatever the committee that they are coming in. Otherwise, you have people serving for 20, 25 years in a committee, and end of the day, They have not achieved anything. They have not given anything back to the sport. So if you don't have time, don't get involved. Get people in. I mean, if you don't have administrators, you get people from army or navy or air force. Even that, at least you can use their reserve. You know, they can use their facilities to develop the sport. So I believe so. I think I mean it's a simple fix, but I can't see it happening, unfortunately.
I agree. Stern words, lots of wisdom there from Priyantha. Now, Priyantha, here's another question. I actually had him on my show, one of my previous guests, coach of St. Thomas's, Mr. Shamli Nawaz. Shamli asks,
I,
Priyantha, what do you think Sri Lanka should do to get back to the top three of Asia?
uh, I think we have to go back to the drawing board, and we need to come up with a master plan. We need to come up with a long term plan. So like you can have a short term plan and a long term plan. We need to identify talent at a very early age, whether we are going to do it at under 15 level or under 16 level, and bring them through the ranks. I know we need little bit of money for this, but if we come up with a proper strategy, given the current situation, it's tough, but we need to come up with a plan. If we don't come up with a plan, then it's going to be tough. So only way we can do is we go to the drawing board, we set up a plan, we structure it, and I believe our way forward is sevens rugby. So we have to give more emphasis to sevens rugby, and we can do that. We can do that. For that, we need the academy, because how do you sustain talent? How do you bring talent? I mean, you bring talent, and then some cases you see one club will grab all the talent, and then they will feel that they are not looking. The union is not looking after the players, and they will not release the players. So we have to have a system where we bring in players. I think that's one of the uh, visions of the past regime, and particularly Hindi and the high performance. So to have at least 80 good rugby players in this country. So even if a club takes 25 players, you have another 55 to go around. So we need to keep developing and players. So we need to have a system. So which because we have done away with the high performance now. So I can't see. I mean, there will be good players coming through the school system, because we have a very good school system. We are very fortunate because the schools are managed by most of the old boys. I mean, it's not the schools or the rugby union or anything. It's a it's a old boys who are running it, and and club rugby is surviving because of the forces. So we need to break away from that and see how we can find a way to do it.
Very, very elegantly answered. Thank you for your question. Priyantha, we've got another question about, sorry, I beg your pardon, it's from Tony Lantra. His question is,
Okay.
tell us something about the Ekanayake brothers and your school era. So we must be talking about LV, Rambo.
Ah, LV, I mean, I must be really grateful to LV, because the time that I went to school, I mean, he was in the senior teams. He played cricket for 4 years for college team, and then basketball first team he played like 4 to 5 years. Rugby he played 5 years for the first 15. Athletics, he had a record, all island record at every age group. So he was the dominating person. I mean, he won the all round sportsman for 3 consecutive years. So for me it was easy to piggyback. Hostel life is not easy, it's tough. Those days you get hammered from everybody. Prefects used to hit you, matrons, praise, everybody. We had a different kind of a culture. So it was tough. I mean, bullying was part of the culture. So it's having they said that LV being there, it helped me, and so that's one of the reasons I was able to do all these sports. And yeah, you just mentioned about cricket. I was not much of a cricketer. I just played because we need 11 players. But as for basketball and rugby, I think I was able to contribute in a big way.
Sure, sure. Now, Priyantha, before we wrap things, obviously we had some very sad, tragic news very recently. The late great George Simpkins, one of your coach's key mentors. In fact, the last time when I met you here in New Zealand, you came out to see George when he was undergoing treatment. Um, Share some experiences you had with George and your time with him and what he was like as a coach, because I think you're probably the most appropriate and qualified person to talk about the great George Simpkin.
I mean, George, he was way ahead of his time. I mean, he was a great thinker, not just rugby. He was able to analyze everything. He gave solutions to, I mean, any problem. That's what made him a better human being as well. I mean, I can remember my first stint as a coach. I took over in 1999, and I have been to New Zealand, done a few sessions with like likes of Graham Henry and a lot of other coaches in Auckland and all that. So I was somewhat knowledgeable. I mean, then I started coaching the Candy team, and I really struggled. And so I called George, and I spoke to George, and I was fortunate enough to get him down for 3 weeks, and then he turned it around. And I know I was coaching, and the players were very unhappy, and George changed things, and then only I realized I didn't know even 5% of what George knew. And I always laugh at George and say that I gave up coaching because of him, and because he was so good. And just I mean, he look at his credentials. He was one of the selectors of North Island. Those days they didn't have the All Black trials. They had North Island versus South Island match, and they selected the All Blacks team. You had like Colin Mead, they call him one of the greatest All Blacks ever. Then Alex Wiley and George Simpkin were the selectors, and Colin Meads became the All Black coach. Alex Wiley became the All Black coach. Then George was probably in line to become the next coach. But he decided to go to Fiji and coach in '87. Fiji came to the quarterfinals of the World Cup for the very first time, and they almost beat uh, I think France, who were eventual finalists. And so then he invented the first kicking tee, Simking tee, and then he went to Hong Kong, did wonders with Hong Kong. He changed the face of Hong Kong rugby. He took Hong Kong Sevens to another level. He introduced the drop kick. He introduced so many different things. He was a great thinker. Uh, he started rugby in China. What he has done in Sri Lanka. I mean, he brought us up to 36, I think, world rankings. So I mean, I think he was involved the time that we beat USA. I think USA at the Hong Kong Sevens. So he's done wonders. I mean, if you look at like one of the best players Sri Lanka ever produced, Fazil Marija, he picked from the school. So he had this eye for players, and then also he he was able to strategize and plan based on the opposition. I mean, his last stages. I mean, you know that he was living in Metamata. It's a small town,
Yes.
and they have a rugby club. I think, they were playing in the C division, and George took over. Very next year, they brought him to B division, and then the following year they advanced to the A division. That was for the first time in the history, and they finished fourth or fifth that season. So this is the person we are talking about. I mean, Sri Lanka lost a good person. He started the Singer Sri Lankan Airlines Sevens. He was the brainchild of that. And then also then Carlton Sevens. He was one of the main architect of that. So he's done wonders and wonders. I can go on and on. I have been very close to him and Pip, his wife.
Indeed.
Uh,
Indeed.
and his family. So they came and lived in Sri Lanka for, I think, good 7 years. So we go back a long way. I mean, he has started helping the Sri Lankan team during the time I was coaching. I mean, very unfortunate. I really got to know him, during the latter stages of my rugby career. But as an administrator, he was really brilliant. I mean, when I took over the rugby union, he's the one who guided me and helped me. I mean, whenever I have a problem, I used to call him, to get his advice on anything. This rugby lost a good man.
Indeed. Indeed. The late great George Simpkin. So look, Priyantha, mate, we've been online for almost 90 minutes. It's been an enthralling Q&A. We've come to the end of this segment. So, on behalf of the fans and personally on behalf of myself, thank you so much for giving up your time. I hope everything goes well for you with your new venture in baseball. And no doubt, with your ideas and ability to execute, who knows, baseball will be probably the next best thing to come out of Sri Lankan sports. So, on that note, again, thank you. We wish you well. And no doubt, we'll see you soon. And if you have any final thoughts for the fans out there, here's your chance.
Ah, thanks, Bo. Thank you for the opportunity. But my thing is follow your passion. When you play a sport, I think a lot of guys make a mistake is trying to get a job through the sport, whether it's rugby or any sport for that matter. But they don't see the how you can play the sport with more passion. It's a lifestyle, isn't it? I mean, you need to enjoy the sport to be good at it. And if you enjoy, I mean, you can play for a longer period. But instead, I mean, if you go and get a job through the sport, which we all try to, and then as a result, you don't enjoy the sport. So my thing is, of course, if you are playing a sport, try to enjoy the sport and have fun. I mean, we are all here to enjoy life. I mean, we work, we earn, we do everything to be happy, isn't it? So if you're playing the sport as a passion, then you're going to enjoy what you're doing.
Great words from a great man. So there you go, folks. Mr. Priyantha Ekanayake, my guest today on Facebook Q&A Live. Make sure you join us next week. It'll be on Saturday, prime time, 4:30 p.m. as usual. So again, Priyantha, thank you very much for your time. Stay safe. Enjoy this little lockdown period, and I think back to work shortly for you, isn't it?
Yeah, so hopefully soon, sooner than later.
Hopefully.
But given the situation, it's going to be tough, isn't it? So I can't see thing opening up for another month or so. So let's see how it goes. Thanks, Bo. Stay safe, and thank you to everyone who's watching this. And see you.
You're very welcome. Absolutely. A pleasure. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you tune in next Saturday, same time. We'll have another special guest. And also make sure you check out my midweek feature, Hardball. I'll have a very special guest this week. You will know who that person is. In fact, a former teammate of Priyantha's from the armed forces. In fact. It'll be up on my straight up Facebook page. So on that note, you know the drill, guys. I will see you soon.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this. And don't forget to hit the bell icon for our latest content.